Hello everybody and welcome back to the video. Today we're going to be reviewing Justice League Snyder Cut. We're also going to talk about where should the DCU go from here. So let's jump right into that. Alright, so does the Snyder Cut add anything to this movie? Of course it does. Now how much depends on how much of a fan you are of the original, if you're a casual fan, or how much you are a fan of the comics, because it's very different. The movie adds a lot of things. It adds a lot of Easter eggs, lots of characters we were hoping to see. Some characters come across as a little bit of a surprise, and that's great. There's a lot of things that non-comic book movie fans, however, will not pick up on. And that's a big problem. That and the movie is long. So if you're just an average movie fan that isn't big into comic books, I don't know that you sit through this and enjoy it. I don't know that you sit through this movie and you're like, this is the greatest movie ever made. And oh, don't get me wrong, it's not the greatest movie ever made. But you're not going to walk out of it thinking how amazing it is, more than likely, if you didn't like the original. If you didn't like the original cut. Now, if you are a comic book fan, it adds a little bit more for you. You might walk out going, oh wow, they showed that character, they showed this character, they showed this character. That's where it falls apart, because your average movie fan is not going to know who some of these people are at first glance. And that's where the movie fails. It fails on the explicit level that it doesn't tell you who they are. If you don't know who these characters are, it does nothing to let you know. And that's a problem. And of course, I'm not talking about Superman, Batman, and the Justice League. Your average moviegoer is going to know who they are. I'm talking about some of the lesser characters that appear. You know, your romances for the superheroes. Are non-comic book fans really going to be able to look and determine, okay, that's who this is? And I think the answer is no. And that's where this movie kind of falls apart for me. Thinking a little bit critically, it falls apart for me there. Because your average movie fan needs to be a little bit informed as to who these characters are. When you see someone get rescued that means something, there's gotta be a line. There's gotta be a more explicit line than, oh, just a name. The movie kind of treats it like they're trying to tell you it's an origin for how some of the people meet whoever they meet. But I think they didn't have to do that. I don't think they had to go that far. It's the over-explaining, it's the over-simplifying for them, if you will, that ultimately hurts the film. If we see the Flash rescue this girl, we're supposed to know who this girl is. And if you don't know who the girl is, it's just him rescuing a girl, and that's cool. And okay, Flash has the hots for her. Okay, great. But I don't feel Like, they did enough to explain who she was, but yet, if they had done it just a little bit different, they probably could have gotten away with that. It it just comes across a little bit like scenes were added in for fan service. And that's great, except that not everybody is one of those fans. So that's my review of the movie. Now, that being said, I enjoyed it. And I enjoyed it a lot because I'm a comic book fan and I got all the Easter eggs. But I have to think as critically as I can. I have to think about you, the average moviegoer who's like, hey, superhero movies are cool. The Marvel Cinematic Universe does it so much better because if they introduce you to a character, they take more than 3 minutes to introduce you to the character. You're not getting this momentary boom and you're supposed to know who it is. You're getting this more elaborate story within that. Maybe you follow the character for a couple more seconds, but the movie is like 4 hours long. There's no way that they were going to be able to have you follow these people, these little minor characters, for more than the 2 seconds they're on screen. And that hurts a little bit. That hurts your average moviegoer because you don't always know who these characters are supposed to represent. So I would recommend seeing the movie if you have a couple hours to spend on it. It is pretty good. Just if you're an average movie fan who's not a big comic book fan, just kind of expect that you're probably missing some things and don't let it get to you. Enjoy the action as it happens because there is a lot of action. There's just a lot of moments where it slows down too. I talked to one person that said they watched it all the way through and they didn't know who most of the little side characters were and wanted me to break down who's who. So I kind of broke down who's who in the comics a little bit for them and what their relationships were and all this. I said, okay, they're going to give the movie another watch. So they watched the movie a second time, but this time they fast forwarded through all the slower parts. They said once you fast forward through all the slower parts, you're just getting a better version of the first film. I can't argue with that. But also I would recommend that if you're sitting down and watching a movie, you watch the entire movie. You are going to get those scenes that you're not going to know what they are. But at the same time, it's important to take it all in. It adds to whatever your opinion of the movie is. That's what I think anyway. And that's my review of the Justice League. No spoilers, no anything. I recommend you watch it. It's a pretty good movie, action-packed. Does have a lot of slow moments. There are Easter eggs the average fan will miss, but still really cool. A lot of cool things added. So let me know what you think in the comments about that. Do you think that the Justice League Snyder Cut is a better movie overall? I want to know what you think in the comments. Do you think that I'm wrong in saying that your average movie fan who doesn't know anything about the comics is going to miss out on some of these lesser characters and not knowing who they are? And does it matter if they don't know who they are? What's your opinion? Let me know in the comments. Now we'll move on to our next topic. Where should the DCU go from here? Alright, so where should the DCU go from here? The DC Cinematic Universe suffers from one major flaw. And that is, it's too dark a lot of times. And sure, we all like a little bit of grittiness, but it can go overboard in that amount of grittiness. Superman legitimately kills General Zod, which actually made me wish that I was watching the other movie, the old movies with Christopher Reeve, where I knew that Superman was nice and where people weren't afraid of him. They kind of followed this whole Christopher Nolan thing, and I think it suffers for it. I just think it suffers for it. I'm sorry. So, it could use a little bit of lightening up. That's my opinion. The other thing is a lot of crazy things that he was going to do. He was going to do several movies where one is even a dream. This borders on the whole Dallas season where Bobby steps out of the shower because, hello, everything's a dream. Now, that had some implications that came along with it. Now its sister show, Knots Landing, couldn't cross over with it. So now you had a real issue because Knots Landing couldn't cross over with it. Everything that they showed you with the season that was a dream had to continue to be a dream. So they just ignored the fact that Bobby was alive on Dallas. They ignored the fact that JR was alive or anybody was alive after that. They couldn't cross over with the show anymore. And that unfortunately happens. So when you're looking at an entire movie being a dream, now you have an issue where, do you want to go and see a movie where the whole thing is Bruce Wayne's dream? So there's a lot of little things. The movie could use a lot of lightening up. I think if they wanted to move forward, James Gunn's Suicide Squad looks like it's going to be fun and acknowledges the other movies. So I think that might be the way to go. I think moving forward, they need to stop with this dark, brooding stuff. You can have a little bit of it. I mean, the Marvel Cinematic Universe kills people all the time. But they do it in a way that doesn't come across like, oh, you're just going to see Batman walk in with a gun and shoot people. You're going to see, Superman snap the bad guy's neck. The whole darkness of the DC Cinematic Universe is a lot of the problem. So I think that going forward, that would have to be corrected. And I don't see Snyder's vision jumping into that. Now, I could be wrong. Maybe you want Snyder's vision all the way through. Maybe the idea of Bruce Wayne's dream as a movie appeals to you in a lot of ways. Let me know in the comments what you think about that. Because I am curious to know what you, the fans, think. What you, the movie-going public, what you, the fandom, think about that idea. Now, we get a lot of Elseworld movies in DC. And that presents a little bit of a problem as well. You have these Elseworld movies that don't amount to anything. Well, what are you going to do now, huh? What are you going to do? Just keep spitting out all these Elseworld movies? Just spit another one out. We can have a new Batman movie that don't mean anything. A new Birds of Prey movie that don't mean anything. We can have a new Superman movie that don't mean anything. I'm all for Elseworld movies. If they're done right and they're done good. Joker was amazing. But in terms of going forward with a cinematic universe, you have to have that plan. You have to have that plan for that crossover. Look, I wasn't the biggest fan of the original cut of Justice League. I love the Snyder cut a lot better. that being said, I just, I wouldn't mind seeing another version of the original cuts Justice League popping up, doing what they're doing, but it has to be lighter. And, I wouldn't mind seeing it acknowledge that they existed, that they did these things, acknowledge that Superman killed General Zod. I always tell people that a good writer can take something that they didn't like and work with it. Work from that point and make something better. And the DC universe seems to lack this ability with all these Elseworld movies. If you keep doing things in Elseworlds, you don't have to worry about canon at all. Well, when you don't have to worry about canon, it makes things a lot easier, don't it? But it's also lazy writing. It's lazy writing to do that. To sit there and have 9 million movies that have these characters in it that you love, all different versions, because it doesn't matter that they did this in that movie or that in that movie. None of it matters because at the end of the day, it's not even the same universe anymore. It just comes across as lazy storytelling. Okay, so I always use the Friday the 13th as a reference here. It's because it's a perfect example of what I'm talking about. The Marvel Cinematic Universe, it coincides with all its other movies. You don't see any world things happening. They never ignore the ending of a movie. DC Universe having all these Elseworld movies is a lot like the Friday the 13th franchise. They got to the Jason Takes Manhattan part and they no longer wanted to acknowledge it after that because they didn't like the way he died. So that was lazy writing on their part because the next movie went to even a crazier place. And then the movie after that said, we're not going to deal with that. So now you had 2 more sequels that just didn't want to address anything that happened before. Well, now, this is a problem because once you're dealing with that, the fans notice and the fans lose interest. So now, we get this reboot of Friday the 13th. And the guys who made the reboot legitimately said in an article that they were not even Jason fans. Okay, so you're not even a fan of Friday the 13th and you're going to write it? That goes over so well. And the movie feels nothing like the original movies. It moves maybe quicker, but they try to do things to reference the movie. They miss the mark because you could tell they're not fans. I just feel like with DC, with them going off on these tangents where they have to do this Elseworld movie, it hurts them every time. It hurts them every time because now they don't have to worry about what the last movie ended like. They don't have to worry about did this character die or did that character die. And that's lazy writing. That is pure and simple lazy writing. So going forward in the DC universe, for the movies, I honestly think that what they have to do, and the only way it survives, and the only way they gain traction and get the success of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, is to make it matter. Make everything in the DCU matter. Because without it, you're not doing anything. You're just popping out a new movie that has nothing to do with anything you've already created. It comes across as lazy. The Joker was great, but that's the exception to the rule. Who says that any other Elseworld movie is going to be so fantastic? And so what if it is? Continue with the Elseworld movies. Have this new Superman movie that has nothing to do with Clark Kent. Have this new Batman movie with Robert Pattinson playing Batman. It's all fine. But look, at the end of the day, you have to have a cinematic universe that counts, something that matters, something that fans want to go back into this world. Otherwise, you're just doing a movie that's a standalone movie, not caring about the fans' wants and needs to see these characters again. What are they going to do, Joker 2 because everybody loved it? that don't quite work that way. And so that's what I think. Let me know what you think in the comments. And I'll see you in the next video. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. And that little bell down there, hit that for notifications so when you know when we do our next video.